Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, yep, my microphone's on. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. This is the Roaming Prepper Channel. I am your host, Pete. And once again, I want to thank you for joining me in your afternoon to hear me rant about stuff going on in the world. So, title of the video: This is not good. What am I talking about? Well, it's something that might actually affect a lot of us, but not in the typical prepper way. It could affect us in other ways, but it could affect our prepping and our lives in general. I'll explain a little bit more once I get back. What is going on, everybody? And before we get going, just a reminder, make sure to hit the like and subscribe. If you want to leave a I don't like, that's fine too. You could put gibberish, you could put emojis. Apparently, the other day, pizza and burrito emojis were the thing, which being in Texas, that kind of fits Texas. We just needed some barbecued ribs in there. In any case, what am I talking about? Well, according to a recent um, and let me find the title here so I can explain to you. Billions in personal information records may have been exposed in a data breach back in April. What are we, August now? In April. Now, some of you may already know this. I'm just kind of catching wind of it. Apparently, it was a class action lawsuit in Florida placed against a group called National Public Data, which is kind of like a government data clearinghouse. It's a private company, it's not a .gov website. And what they do, you send background check information and whatnot there, and they accumulate information. They run the algorithms and say, Pete is applying for this job. You put the information. He says, yeah, this is his background, and he is not a criminal. Um, the class action lawsuit filed claims a hacking group was able to access the database of national public data and provides access. This company provides access to various public records databases. Um, the group made on the database, which was said to contain 2.9 billion records. That's a boatload of records. So they're not 2.9 billion Americans. They're 330 million Americans. So what I'm assuming is that they said it was 2.9 billion records. So I guess that's everything. Your social security is a record, your photos are a record, your fingerprints are a record. But in agglomerate or conglomerated together, it's 2.9 billion records of U.S. citizens. Um, the members reduced that number last week, saying it was actually 2.7, like that really matters. They also claimed the data was residents of the US, UK, and Canada, which have a combined population, according to this, of less than 440 million, 330 of which are Americans. NPD has not responded to multiple media requests for information regarding the breach. The company has responded to some who reached out to them via email that it is aware of certain third-party claims that they were breached. But the problem is, no, you can't confirm it. Now, I did find this article, this topic on multiple newscasts that included mainstream media, CNBC, CNN, and Fox, and I found it on fringy news sources as well. So, what does this mean? Now, obviously, the first thing everyone that comes to everyone's mind is credit, right? You have my social, you can get into my bank accounts, you can get into my credit score, et cetera, et cetera. Typically, if you have um, you for any of these transactions, you had to provide a social security number. Even if you bought a home, you bought a gun, the list goes on and on. You guys can see where it would go. Now, where would this be a problem? Well, obviously, some people immediately think, oh, well, credit cards. Others will say, well, the government will take our guns. Well, the government kind of knows where guns are shipped to, even if you don't register them in your state. So, like, if I bought whatever X shotgun and it shows up in a crime, well, the ATF or the feds can go and say, okay, it's manufactured by Mossberg. This serial number was shipped to a wholesaler in Oklahoma, which was then shipped to a store in Texas, which went to Then they'll just go to that store and look the receipts for the last 5 years or whatever, and they'll say like, "Oh, this was a guy who bought it originally." Um, but that's a convoluted process. Could it be used for that? Maybe. My thing is, right? There's a lot of speculation that, you know, a lot of the people being brought in, many of whom are criminals, many of whom are cartel members, might be able to make use of this data, especially the social security numbers of people who are dead. Someone uses my social and it shows up on my credit score. I'm going to start shutting things down within 24 hours. I'm going to lock down credit cards, shut down bank accounts, whatever, trying to head it off. But if you take the social of a dead person or a person who's living overseas, they may not see it right away, especially if you don't open credit, you don't buy a house or a car. But it could be used to create voters. Yeah, somebody pointed that out to me, and I'm like, that's kind of scary. So all these laws that are now being passed that you need a valid ID and you need either green card or citizenship. I believe green card holders can vote because they're technically almost citizens. Um, but if you have like a work visa or something, you can't. Well, you could provide a social security number. Someone could put mine in a go to a voting place and say, "Oh, my name is Pete, whatever, and here's my social," and they vote, and it goes in the system. Then I go the next day with my license, and they're like, "You already voted." And by the way, if that does happen, you can fill out a form and claim that the other person is lying. They've just committed a felony, but you still have the problem. In any case, that's very interesting. So, what do we do? Well, the one thing, if you have any kind of online accounts, banks, checks, credit cards, investment company, whatever, um, check your credit score um, as soon as you can. And nowadays, it's not like, oh, you have to write to this credit company and once a year they print you this thing. No, you can go online and pretty much look anytime and print out your credit card statements, print out all your bank account statements now, and then print out your credits report now, showing what does exist on your credit. That way, if a month from now someone's like, oh, I'm going to open a credit card in Pete's name, I see it on my credit report. It comes to me, says, hey, someone just opened a credit card in your name. I block it. I can immediately scan all that data and send it to the credit agencies and to the bank and say, hey, this was my information as of a month ago. I did not open that account, and you can shut that down. Um, Also, checking your credit score regularly, um, having automated emails and texts for deposits and withdrawals. Any expenditure over a certain threshold, they can send you a text. Hey, someone spent $100 on your bank card. Is this legit? Yes or no? Right? You can immediately call it in. Another thing you can do, which is very helpful, is you can sign up for things like LifeLock, and they kind of monitor all your stuff. There's steps you can take to prevent yourself from having to go through this debacle of identity theft. And I probably need to do a few things better myself, but I have a lot of things automated. So when something happens, I immediately get the email or the text saying, hey, this is not legit. So set yourself up for success by taking the time, take a couple hours tomorrow, this weekend, because in my mind, that's a prep. You're protecting yourself from hacking and financial loss. In my eyes, that's prepping, right? Prepping doesn't have to necessarily be canned foods and bullets and bandages. It can be not getting hacked, not having the lights turned off, not having someone try to buy a car in your name and screwing up your financials. So all of these things come into play, folks. So anyway, just wanted to give you all a heads up on that. Not something any of us want to deal with, but it's good to know it's out there. I'm going to be checking my credit score more regularly now, just to make sure new accounts don't pop up, because if I see something I didn't open, I'm going to squash it really quick. In any case, that's it for this one. Thank you so much. God bless. Godspeed. You guys be careful out there. I'll see you on the next video.